TE Talks with Guides is a weekly podcast for lovers of history, travel, and all things Italian. Welcome back, everybody, to TE Talks, sponsored by True Eternity Tours. I'm your host, Rob Allen, and on TE Talks, we get to talk with some of the most fascinating people who make a living out of being wonderful storytellers. We get to delve into what drives their passion and share the experience that they've had in their life that helps them with their jobs. Today, I'm very, very excited because we have a very special opportunity. We have three guests who are going to be joining us today. This is just going to be an audio, but ladies, we're all being able to see each other. I have Cinzia, Eugenia, and Guia joining us today. Now, this is a very special occasion, and I think why I wanted to have you all here is that you went on a very special vacation together. And to let you guys know, as I said, the podcast is called TE Talks with Guides. But as we are all guides in this conversation, one thing that we had to study in our preparation to become official guides, that we had to learn about the Via Francigena, or sometimes they even call it the Via Francigena, if it's plurals, because there's always different kind of paths.
A lot of variants.
Yes, a lot of variants. And it is, for people who don't know what it is, many people are famous with the Camino Santiago. Yes. But it is, imagine, guys, that Rome is a very important place of pilgrimage for many people of the Catholic faith, and there is this passage on foot that is supposed to start from Canterbury, right? Like the Chaucer Canterbury Tales, and you get over the English Channel, and then you go from France through Switzerland and the Alps and down through Italy, all the way to Rome, and then you can even continue eventually to Jerusalem. Yes. So I've always had this idea that it would be lovely to do something like this in my life, to take 4 months out of my life to do this. And I know that Eugenia, last year, you decided on a vacation to go on this on your own, right? And you did this last year. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yes, well, last year we had a very weird summer because for the first time, after many years, we didn't work.
Yes.
So it was a little scary on one side,
Mm-hmm.
but a great opportunity on the other side. So we could do, we had plenty of time to enjoy and do things that we wouldn't do ordinarily.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about what I could do with my time.
Mm-hmm. And
one day I was on Facebook. I am in a group of women
mm-hmm.
who enjoy hiking. And one of them made a post,
mm-hmm.
and she said, well, I'm from Milan. I would like to walk along the Francigena, but I'm on my own. I've never done it before. Would anybody like to join me? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, yes, I will.
Exciting.
And we ended up being six women traveling mm-hmm. together. We decided to part of the Francigena in Tuscany, mm-hmm. from San Miniato to Siena. And we got organized and we did it. And then this year we repeated the experience going from Siena to Roceno.
Mm-hmm.
Just to Bolseno Lake.
Yeah, it's not far from Rome. One of the same ladies I worked with last year, and with Cinzia and Guia.
Okay, so I think I recall before you even went, you're about to go on the vacation, and that you had said that it was such a wonderful experience that
yes.
you wanted to repeat it. And
Yes. Last year I was so excited, and in fact, I did it in late August. And when I came back, we all met. All the guides from TE Eternity met.
mm-hmm.
If you remember,
oh, that's right. Wasn't it like together to celebrate Pip's birthday. I think it was September.
Yes,
it was
September. So it was early September, and I had just come back and I was so enthusiastic. And Cinzia and Guia was sitting right in front of me, and my enthusiasm must have been contagious because they said, I told them that I would, leave right away and go on, and they said, "Oh well, we'll join you." And so this year we managed to go again.
And you guys all did manage to go. So yeah, I mean, it's always important to find the positive in challenging moments in our lives, which we've all been going through, the entire world, and to have that opportunity, because as guides we are normally working in June.
When July is a high season.
And even if you take a break, you don't really want to walk 20 kilometers a day because you're tired.
Oh, sure.
Because usually working, you walk at least 10 kilometers a day. So.
Yeah. As tour guides, we do walking tours, so we are walking at least 10 kilometers a day.
So what you need when you are on vacation normally is something very close to the beach. You lying right in front of the sun with your aperitivo. Just to you.
Yeah, exactly. Last year, it was the good time to do it.
Yes.
We would walk in 5 days. We walked 90 kilometers.
Wow.
Which is not really. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's not. Once you're there, it's so enjoyable that you don't really feel it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So you walk through, the countries that you pass through, little villages and little towns, and you walk through vineyards, through valleys. The landscape is beautiful, and it's different when you are in your car, on a bus, on a train. You see the landscape. When you walk along the Francigena, you are in the landscape.
You live the landscape.
And it's a sensorial experience, as well as visual. This year we smelled that there was this scent of Scotch broom everywhere. There's huge bushes of Scotch broom everywhere, and this scent accompanied the whole hike. While last year it was more of a tasting thing because it was late August, so the grapes were ripe in the vineyards.
Okay.
And you couldn't help, picking some.
Wow.
And there were figs, and there were blackberries, big bushes of blackberries, and even the apricots, late apricots.
Because the apricots are kind of run now.
Very sweet, so we continuously tasted things on the way.
This is lovely. So, ladies, if I could ask each one of you and Cinzia to also get you involved in the conversation, if you guys could choose a word to describe this experience, an adjective, what would you choose?
Well,
on the spot, Cinzia.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. There are many words I could think about, but maybe it was a very, for me, intimate experience. Like I felt very little, very small, not little as an age, but small compared to nature, compared to the land and the sky and the sun. You're exposed to so much. It's not wildness because you cross, as Eugenia was saying, many farms and vineyard, but you feel that you can count on your body. So you're grateful for your legs, you're grateful for your eyes, and when you look at this space, you feel like you did it. You count on your body and your willing of finishing. It's sometimes when you have this kind of experience, you are often you're thinking about your destination every day. So that you have to reach that town by a certain time of the day, but actually the experience is not the goal, but it's the walking. You don't really are thinking about when I'm going to arrive, but you're actually enjoying every single step and actually thinking so much. At least I was thinking a lot. Sometimes I was putting music in my head, so because I wanted to kind of isolate from the chat with the others, because it's really fun to talk, and you talk with one and then with the other, and then you catch up with conversation. But then sometimes when you are really quiet, it's really beautiful. It's really intimate. That's why I chose this word.
That's lovely. It's really lovely. Gosh, I mean, well, I'll continue. So Guia, how would you describe it?
It was a great experience. For some aspect, unexpected. I mean, I was very concerned about my physical condition because I realized that it was a pretty tough program to cover in 6 days. And then once we started, it was absolutely natural. So I surprised myself first. And then I started to look at the nature because as Eugenia was saying before, you are living the nature in this kind of trip. A very important point, or at least it was a very important point to me, was that none of us was having this journey for, a religious pilgrimage. So we were there just in order to enjoy the nature. But it was very helpful in making me realize what I've studied in the past. For instance, when I was in high school and I studied, the Middle Age philosophy, I couldn't understand why they were so related to the nature, to study the phenomenon of the nature. And walking in this countryside almost alone, being alone in front of the nature, you realize why these guys were so focused on this kind of topic. Because actually you feel part of something that is much bigger than you, but you're part of it. So you want to go thoroughly in every single aspect of that. And then the other thing that was really emotional to me was the kind of total immersion in an experience that was a visual experience, but was also a matter of smell, as Eugenia told. And this was great. And we were so lucky that in this journey, we could spend a lot of time in the nature, seeing different kind of landscape, because the landscape changed as long as you come closer to Rome. But at the same time, we started in a city with a great history and very important works of art, which is Siena. And we ended up in Orvieto, which is another city that is full of works of art. So this mixture of nature on one side and art, that is very important to me since I am an art historian.
And you forgot what was in the middle.
Yes, of course.
You didn't mention.
Yes, I didn't mention that because this was the third part. The third part was the beautiful climbing. Actually, it was a diversion from the original route of the Francigena, and I will never thank Cinzia enough for insisting in doing that. But we climbed up the hill in order to reach the monastery of Monte Orvieto Maggiore.
Wow.
Which is an amazing place because it's right on the top of the hill in the middle of almost nowhere. We walked for 3-4 hours in order to get up there. But actually, the cloister of this monastery is decorated with fantastic frescoes made by painters that 2 years before had been in the Sistine Chapel. So it was so challenging to see this kind of painting there in the middle of nowhere, as we are so used to see the paintings of the Sistine Chapel. It was a kind of weird and fantastic experience at the same time.
Well, yes, to clarify for everyone listening, because clearly the 3 lovely ladies that I'm speaking with, we are all guides in Rome. And so we get to see the chapel, the Sistine Chapel, probably 2 or 3 times a week during the high season.
Yes, almost on a daily basis during that.
Yes. Well, but
twice a day.
yeah, I know. It's funny because lots of times
Vatican tour.
Clients kind of say, "Oh my God, you must feel so fortunate." I'm always like, it's so packed. But I remember though, I did get to see it. I remember the first time I saw the Sistine Chapel itself with a private group when it was closed. After it was closed, and that was emotional for me to go and see. So I imagine I saw those photographs. That is another reason why I'm so happy to have you guys here, to be able to have the 3 of you together so quickly after the experience. But you were sharing, we're all friends on Facebook, and you were sharing some of these images, and I just thought they were stunningly beautiful, I guess, So, and to continue on, how was, Eugenia, how would you describe this experience compared to the year before? Because you've done different parts of the Via Francigena.
Yes, well, last year We passed some major, well, not cities really, but towns, villages that are pretty famous, like San Gimignano and Monteriggioni. Well, this year it was a little bit
Of the beaten path.
yeah, a little bit more.
Well, the beginning and the end were very famous.
The beginning and the end, but
Yes.
the middle was more places that were foreigners that didn't go, like San Quirico d'Orcia, but it was the Val d'Orcia, which is in the World Heritage
UNESCO site.
UNESCO site, yes. And there are these tiny villages like San Quirico d'Orcia or Radicofani. There are 2,000-3,000 people living there. And it's only for local people. It's not very famous, not very touristic, I would say. And I like both parts. If I should recommend it to someone, I really know which one to choose.
Well, so they're both really special. I mean, well, I would imagine any part is kind of a special experience. Listening to all three of you, I have to say, I mean, I think, Guia, you're very clear. This is not for you guys, and I would imagine for myself, it would not be a spiritual journey, that's not the right word, not a religious journey. It is. I was going to say spiritual. Listening to that, I mean, when I was studying, I remember I really enjoyed walking to churches in Rome, and there's this experience that you have when you are being challenged in a pilgrimage or just walking to a place, and then you come to these places of astounding beauty and the feelings that you may have going through. And Cinzia, how you were saying about how you may have felt small. Or I mean, all three of you have said these things about feeling in a certain sense small but connected to nature.
Right.
I think is really beautiful, and I think people long for that, really. So I think it's lovely. I think that because a lot of times people are connected to their iPhones or they're connected to distractions and inevitably disconnected. But the idea of taking a journey with friends, colleagues, and friends, because of course you're not just colleagues, you would just take a trip together if you were colleagues, to be able to do this kind of experience together, I think is really, really lovely. And Guia mentioned that you also had one of your friends that you met from the group from Milan. It sounded so lovely because Guia said that she was the lady who was like, okay, we need to get this done today. We're going to walk this much time, blah, 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 blah. So she was being the tour guide for you. That must have been wonderful.
Be guided by somebody else.
Yes, that's like I had that one too on a person.
Fantastic.
You can relax.
You just don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about it. Yes, my God. So yeah, well, so it's like to have the freedom of not having to worry about that kind of stuff. Must have been really, really, really lovely.
We love her. She's very experienced with. She has this app called Ranger, and she knows all the paths and all the ways. And you don't get lost with her, but you do. Sometimes, occasionally, you do.
Occasionally,
but she finds a way.
To solve it in a very good time with any kind of
It's very. We only got lost when we got off the Francigena, because the Francigena. On the Francigena, it is impossible to get lost because it's very, very carefully marked, and you have a map that you can follow. There's this red dot on this blue line, and you see the route. So you can't possibly get lost. So the only time we got lost, it was like off the Francigena going to the monastery. But because she had this very good app, and we found the way, and we reached finally.
My
Before we went
goodness.
to the monastery, we were almost out of any kind of physical strength, and we bumped into the nicest couple I have ever met. They were running a little coffee shop in a small, very small place that was called Chiusure.
200 people lived there.
Maybe less, I guess, even less. It was a small village, basically, and we were starving, so we asked them if they could prepare something for us. And basically, they said yes, and they shared with us their lunch because we ate the same thing that they were about to eat. They were so lovely, and the most beautiful artichoke that I have ever eaten in my life.
Wow, really?
Yeah, artichokes,
Tomatoes,
cheese, pecorino cheese.
Wonderful.
And
Tomatoes and Tuscan.
yeah, at first I didn't want to eat. I had my own little things. I had some almonds because I don't know, I didn't.
You don't eat
We
lunch a
don't
lot.
know. Yeah, when I'm very tired and stressed and exhausted, I normally don't eat much. But then I saw their dish and I said, okay, I'll join you. It's so good. The
They were
best
so
pecorino we had,
nice.
the best artichoke.
How was the artichokes prepared? A little mano? No.
No, they were just
They were in a jar.
Under oil.
Under oil, yeah.
Ah, okay. So it was like.
But they were homemade, so it was very special, the flavor.
The lady had made
the artichokes.
I have to say, just this memory makes me think that two elements that are really great about taking this kind of trip are the food, because you really appreciated the evening meal. And you have to think about your lunch as well. So you pack your lunch every day, at the end of the day, you think what I'm going to eat on the picnic the next day. But the evening is very relaxing. In fact, we discovered very shortly that in the evening, if we had a little wine or a beer or Vinsanto, we would go to sleep much happier. So we started to be
much better.
Yeah. And the second element that is really important in this trip is actually the meeting with people. Like when Guia was describing this couple, I mean, there are no words if you were not there to listen to them, to describe these two old people kind of fighting but loving each other when they were talking to each other, like in the classic Italian way. If we were not Italian, we wouldn't understand that they were actually married and they loved each other. And then on the way you meet people that wants to really connect with you. They ask you questions and you ask them questions. And it's really nice to know that you have the surprise of meeting people that you didn't expect. And they give you a little gift to bring with you, and then you have that memory. I think the human contact we had were all lovely. Like, you really learn about different way to live. And sometimes, you're surprised to compare to your life,
This, can I ask you, I mean, this is, again, exactly the thing that I would love to do. I remember many years ago when I first came to Europe and I traveled on backpacking, I was traveling by myself. So I had much more opportunities to meet people. People even, they would be eating at a restaurant by myself and someone said, oh, please come and sit with us, and then we would chat.
Right.
These are great opportunities.
Just what you say made me smile because so when we were getting ready for this trip, I went to a store to buy a backpack because obviously I'm 45 years old and I don't own my own backpack anymore. And I bought my backpack, I put it on, and literally I felt so happy. I felt like you say on my 20, I did my European travel. And I think these trips really make you connect again to your past as well. If you're, on our age level, it's like, oh, wow, I can do this again in a different way, with different perspective, different expectation, and more relaxing, feelings, because I know what I can carry or what I cannot carry. In fact, we were not carrying our backpacks during the trip. We actually Eugenia was very good at calling this service that was hired to carry our backpacks to the hotel. So we actually had to carry just whatever we wanted to carry for the day. I think that was obviously less official in the way that people normally do this kind of hiking. But if somebody's concerned about that part, will I be able to carry my backpack for 30 kilometers a day? Well, you don't have to if you don't want to. So it was very easy.
Yeah.
Last year we walked the first 12 kilometers because you can divide your hike into stages.
Yeah. Sections,
and we decided to have a short section the first day because we didn't know how we would react. No, none of us had been on long hikes. So we started carrying our backpack, the big one. So I walked 12 kilometers with my big backpack on my shoulders. When we got to destination, one of us said, look, I'm not going to carry this for 90 kilometers, no way. So we got organized. And it was the greatest choice because you lose if you have to carry this big weight, then your energy goes into surviving really, and you lose the possibility to really get into what you are experiencing because you're so tired. So this is why it's great. You can something small to the bag, and then you get to the destination and you find your bag.
Yeah, so the logistics of it. So basically, because I'm also going to ask about this, because in our Facebook group, Travel to be Inspired, I threw up a picture after you guys agreed to talk to me about this in the podcast, and I brought it up to people and I asked the question. So already I have two very dear friends of mine who may come out next year and that we'll do this together. And of course, no, you can really see. It's like, so we're all going to be having milestone 50th birthdays. Mine's next year. One's already 50. One will turn 50 this year. So we were talking about the logistics, and I said, I think there are people who will, can ship the backpack from place to place. So you guys, you start out, the itinerary, more or less, okay, I'm going to have a week, and you go from one point to another point, and where the hotels are all going to be arranged, or hotels or bed and breakfast.
There is an app that you can download, and they give you all the sections and lots of suggestions on places you can sleep.
About where to eat.
And the places where you can sleep are quite different one from the other, because you can sleep in monasteries, convents, little hotels, castles. But you find a lot of information on this app, and you can break the sections. If they're too long, you can break them, and you always find somewhere to sleep.
Okay.
So it's
We anyway booked in advance because we were four of us. So if you are traveling on your own, probably it's easier to find in the very last minute a place where you can sleep. But being four of us, we prefer to book in advance.
Oh, sure.
And I was very surprised that none of the people that we counted asked us money up front before arriving. So, they were very friendly, and the most part of the rooms that we used were pretty good.
Wow. And were they accepting of credit card payments, or did you have to have cash?
In the cases, no, they prefer cash.
Okay, and you're not carrying all that cash. Would you use bank cards, or you had to carry all the cash? Okay.
The second day, I forgot my cash. That was the terrible moment of the journey, the most terrible moment of the journey, because I have set everything the night before, and of course, the belt where I put my money was safe. The next morning, probably because
you forgot where she put it.
Yes, but I realized it when we were already in another place. We were just having our breakfast in the next, at some point in the section. I was scared to death. I passed probably the worst 20 minutes in my life. And finally, I realized that I put that right at the bottom of my backpack. So
that's safe even from you. Oh, there we go. Wow. So, okay. So you say you get up in the morning. Did you? And so, if I've understood you correctly, you guys would have breakfast in wherever you stayed. They would provide breakfast for you the next day, usually.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But
we leave very early.
Sure. Yeah. Like, what time do you leave in the morning? Because you don't want. Yeah, you want.
We get up at 5 and we start at 6.
Wow. So you start at 6 walking. Well, of course, because at this time of year.
The best, I recall my granny when she told us, il mattino all'ora in bocca. The morning is the golden part of the day, basically. And she was right, because it was still, I don't want to say cold, but it was bearable. It was fresh. There was nobody around.
There weren't many people around anyway.
Yes.
Well, that's great too. But please tell me. I mean, I don't drink Starbucks or anything like that, but you did have coffee available, right?
Yeah, in most of the cases.
Times.
Yeah, because I can't function without coffee at all.
But in many places, we're pretty surprised that there was at least one coffee shop in the small town that opened at 6.
Wow.
Just once we had to put off our departure of 20 minutes because the coffee shop was opening a little bit later. But anyway, we're speaking of 6:20 anyway.
Va bene, sure. Well, we're all used to getting up for a 7 o'clock
Oh yes,
early Vatican tour. But anyway, okay, so yeah, I know. So I'm talking to a guide in Capri, and he's like, well, and I was like, well, listen, in Rome, they were like, oh, you want to start the tour early? We start at 9. I was like, in Rome, we start early Vatican, 7 o'clock. Anyway, so then you would go and you would start walking for what? Would you have an early lunch at that point? And or did you have to go find a supermarket to buy food and have that with you? I got the impression you had your lunches during the day.
Yes, the day before we check the section of the next day. If we pass through some little small town with shops, we usually buy our lunch in this occasion just in order to avoid weight on our shoulders.
Sure.
Very early in the morning. If we didn't pass through any kind of small town, so we go to the food the night before.
Okay, great. Okay, all right. And so you'd have lunch around noon or early?
Yes,
Probably, yes.
we had a snack around 10:30, and then around 12:30 we had our lunch.
Oh, lovely. Okay, and then you would then continue to walk after in the afternoon until about what, 5?
Yes, more or less. Yes.
Well, it depends on how many kilometers you have to walk.
Uh-huh.
If it is short. This year it was never short.
It's very short.
Yeah,
Last year it's when you have to walk like 12 kilometers. It takes no longer than 4 hours, 5 hours. So by noon, your body is where you are at the destination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so your first trip, it was about 90 kilometers the first
90
week.
kilometers in 5 days.
In 5 days.
So
This was
sometimes we walked 12 kilometers and sometimes 25.
Uh-huh.
Depends.
And this time, the second
It was
one?
160 in 7 days, 6 days, 6 days.
So this was definitely a minimum of 20
Yes.
kilometers.
Yeah.
A minimum.
Something like that.
Yeah, and it was, well, gosh, you did it in August last year. This year you did it at the end of May. Like right now we're experiencing a bit of a heat wave. The heat has come to Rome, but it wasn't this hot when you guys were walking.
No.
No, it was nice. I guess that end of May, first week of June, maybe the second is the best period of the year. I was not there on August. She survived. So
any time of the year, I think, and I'd like to go again and again in between seasons
Sure.
to see the changes in the landscape.
Beautiful.
So no, the end of August was in Bali. It was hot.
Mhm.
We started very early. It was still dark when we left,
Sure.
and we would watch
See the sunrise.
every day. It was amazing. The middle of
That's
the
lovely.
countryside. And every day it was different. Sometimes there was fog, sometimes it was clear. So it's
So then theoretically you'd have enough time to have a cocktail at the end of the day if you weren't
yes.
tired.
and we discovered Bean Santo at the end of the supper, which was a great experience.
There we go. Okay, yeah. I don't appreciate. I haven't experienced Green Santo too much because it's kind of sweet. But I guess after a hard physical day, it's that
It's
nice.
fantastic.
Touch.
The Toscan of very hard biscuits, the cantuccine.
Oh, wonderful! Oh my gosh, yeah. See, I enjoy this idea because it's like guilt-free meals today without having to worry because you burned out a lot of calories. So, Cinzia, can I ask you, when you had focused on this moment, like you wanted to go to the monastery, I'm kind of like that. If I find that there's something special, but did you ever fear, like as you guys were all climbing up the mountain, oh dear, have I made the wrong choice? Everyone's gonna kill me.
I was actually pretty naive, so I didn't really ask myself, how stiff is going to be the hike and how long. I just wanted to go there, and I said, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And when we did it, actually, it was a very narrow path, and not many people walked on that way. So it was quite wild, maybe the wildest of nature that we encountered during these 6 days. We had a family of wild boar crossing. We saw several animals. Then we got lost. Then we got into this beautiful scenery of flowers called ginestre, which are the yellow flowers with the smell really intense. It was like if you were walking into like I don't know, you know that feeling when you walk in the mall and the perfume shop is coming out. So the whole path was like that. It was like almost feeling, you know, a little too much. And so it was surprisingly difficult, but also surprisingly beautiful, because I didn't really study the path as much. So it was like all a surprise, everything that was coming, including when we lost our way a little. It was difficult, but you know, the fact that we actually did it makes it more fun as a story afterwards. And because we were so focused into the destination, I think because we all love art, nobody wanted to give up. Nobody felt like, well, maybe we should call the driver. Let's just go on the normal street that everybody takes, you know. We just wanted to do it. We even, at one point, poor Guia finished all the water. You know, we were like kind of desperate, but I'm glad we actually decided to do that experience, because it was one special day to remember. Sure. And then, you know, you could see, when you see the fresco of, you know, Signorelli and Sodoma, which are these two main artists in this, it's actually, they call it abbazia, which is an abbey, but an American would call it more like a monastery, because it's only men, there are not nuns there. And you see them represented on the fresco, and you see the portrait of the artist, and you really fantasize about, wow, did that artist from Rome took like a donkey and did exactly the same path I did, and walked all this way, and saw all this beautiful nature and smelled this, and then he arrived there and probably spent, you know, a year in the cold, in the spring, in the summer, and so it makes you really appreciate that, like hard, you know, hiking made you actually appreciate the painting more, you know, the art better, because you think, wow, those artists were traveling in a time when, you know, maybe walking was the only choice for many people. And they were going to work, and they were isolated up there. We stayed one day, but can you imagine you spend a year there with those, you know, with those monks, and they explain us what they call la regola, which means that you follow certain rules when you live in that convent or abbey or whatever we want to call it. And I ask myself, would I follow those rules? Well, I mean, how long can I stay here before they drive me crazy, you know? And I guess if that's your job, you stick there and you stay. But it really makes you think about art and landscape at the same time. You know what I mean?
Lovely. That's lovely. So also to finish this up, I remember that Guia mentioned to me, because she and I were working on the video yesterday about our TE destinations, but you were saying, Guia, that Eugenia takes wonderful photographs, and that Cinzia, you were doing watercolors of the landscapes that you were seeing?
Well, yeah, when I could, you know, I was sketching, yeah. And so, Eugenia was doing the photography. Guia was collecting all the flowers. So we were all kind of like into the, you know, art making.
Wow. Well, you know what I could probably do? We won't use like the video of us talking on Zoom, but I could, you know, superlay the conversation over with the images that you guys have, and share that on stuff if you would like to, because
sure,
it'd be lovely for people to see. Well, anyway, so all in all, I guess, even though it's a physically challenging kind of experience, but very worthwhile, I would say, it sounds like you'd like to do this again at some other point in your lives. I mean, would you do it again?
Yes. We have flowers in the late July.
Or you do other paths of it, or I imagine, I wonder what like the Via Francigena in the Swiss Alps would be like. Really great heights are scary.
I guess.
I would say I'm scared of heights.
Because it's very soft in Tuscany.
Yes.
On the Alps, maybe. No, it's not for me, probably.
What do they say? Well, I mean, they must have like blogs about this, or people writing their experience.
Page on Facebook, Via Francigena, and people ask, but most of the people walk along Tuscany.
Oh, go figure.
Sure. There are some that walk like all the way from the Alps down south.
Yeah.
They take 2 months off. How many months? We met a man that
From
was going
Florence.
from Rome.
Yes, he was using the Francigena in
Somewhere.
order to reach the Camino di Santiago, and his final destination was Santiago. So I guess that had planned at least 3 months, 4 months of walking and hiking.
Wow.
He took 4 months off.
Well, I guess if you can afford to do it. But I do love this idea of a physically challenging vacation, I guess. I think that's wonderful. I would look forward to it. I want to take the path of the gods in the Amalfi Coast. I've heard that's supposed to be really wonderful. Have you guys ever walked that or heard about it? I'm kind of scared of heights, but I still want to do it.
Starting with Francigena, that is for sure easier than that.
Probably yeah, okay.
Yeah. So and then
Step by step, you
Well, I was thinking about like Dylan, we'll do this, we'll do a TE destinations, and then he'll like take me being scared of heights up against the rocks. But anyway. Well, ladies, thank you all so much for your time. This was really wonderful. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else that we didn't talk about. No,
just a great thank you to the girls that shared this experience with me, because it was so easy, so nice, and so lovely. It wouldn't be the same on my own. So they were a very precious part of this journey.
Yes, I think a thing about what's great about the group of guides that we work together is that we all have a certain, in a very good way, sensitivity. That's what probably makes us good at our jobs. But I mean, it's like the way you guys have beautifully described this in such different ways is special. And thank you all for sharing it with us.
You're welcome.
thank you for listening.
Okay.
And for sharing.
Hopefully we get Eugenia and Cinzia for other experiences, because I think people would really love to listen to you guys talk about other things and places. Eventually, with no computer screens. I love that word in Italian, eventually. Works very, very well. Eventualmente. All right, ladies. Okay, so I'm going to sign off and ciao.
Ciao. Thank you.
Ciao. Thank you for listening to our TE Talks with Guides. We have a new episode every Wednesday. Please subscribe to get an alert when each podcast comes out. Rate us and tell people how you enjoyed it, and share it on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Most importantly, if you enjoyed it, send us a feedback about the show. Also, if you are curious about what some of these people and places we talked about look like, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch the video on this podcast, where we have inserted special images for you to further enjoy the story.